Hello everybody, welcome to my channel.
Janice Dickinson is an American model, television personality, author, and entrepreneur who is widely regarded as one of the first supermodels in fashion history. Known for her striking features, sharp wit, and outspoken personality, Dickinson helped redefine beauty standards in the 1970s and 1980s and later became a major figure in pop culture through her appearances on reality television. Born on February 15, 1955, in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in Hollywood, Florida, Janice Doreen Dickinson grew up in a tumultuous household, which she later described candidly in her autobiographies. Despite her challenging upbringing, she pursued modeling with fierce determination. In the early 1970s, she moved to New York City, where she faced repeated rejections from agencies that favored a more traditional, European look. However, her exotic features, dark hair, tanned skin, and bold attitude, soon caught the eye of industry insiders who saw her as a fresh, unconventional beauty. Her career took off when legendary photographer Jacques Silberstein introduced her to Vogue editor Grace Mirabella. Janice went on to appear on the covers of Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Elle, Cosmopolitan, and many other major fashion magazines. She worked with some of the world's top designers and photographers, including Versace, Valentino, Calvin Klein, Helmut Newton, and Richard Avedon, becoming one of the most recognizable faces in the modeling world throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s. Janice Dickinson is often credited with popularizing the term supermodel, a title she claims to have coined herself. Whether or not she invented it, she embodied the idea. A model who was not just a face but a personality, a celebrity, and a brand. Her confidence and assertiveness set her apart in an industry that often demanded silence and compliance from its models. In the 1990s and 2000s, Dickinson transitioned into television. She became a household name again through her appearances on America's Next Top Model as a judge alongside Tyra Banks, where her fiery commentary and brutally honest critiques made her both controversial and unforgettable. Following that, she starred in her own reality show, The Janice Dickinson Modeling Agency, which aired from 2006 to 2008 and chronicled her attempt to start and manage a modeling agency in Los Angeles. Beyond modeling and television, Janice Dickinson has published several memoirs, including No Lifeguard on Duty, The Accidental Life of the World's First Supermodel, Everything About Me is Fake, and I'm Perfect, and Check Please, Dating, Mating, and Extricating. These books revealed the highs and lows of her life, her struggles with addiction, her turbulent relationships, and her relentless ambition. She has been candid about her personal battles, including her recovery from substance abuse and her later diagnosis of breast cancer, which she publicly discussed to raise awareness. Janice Dickinson's influence extends far beyond fashion. She broke barriers as a model of diverse heritage in a predominantly Eurocentric industry, challenged sexist norms, and later used her platform to advocate for women's rights and survivors of sexual assault, having publicly accused Bill Cosby of sexual misconduct during the height of the #MeToo movement. Now in her 70s, Janice continues to appear at public events, on talk shows, and in documentaries, celebrated as both a pioneer and a provocateur. Her legacy is that of a woman who refused to conform, who helped shape the image of the modern supermodel, and who continues to embody the spirit of resilience and rebellion that defined her career. Janice Dickinson's life has been a vivid tapestry of glamour, controversy, ambition, and reinvention, a story as fierce and unfiltered as the woman herself. Her influence reaches across fashion, television, and pop culture, marking her as one of the most outspoken and complex figures to emerge from the modeling world. After conquering the runways and magazine covers of the 1970s and 1980s, Dickinson became known not just for her beauty but for her defiance of stereotypes. While many models of her time were seen as silent muses, Janice was vocal, assertive, and unapologetically confident. She fought for recognition, better pay, and creative respect in an industry that often treated models as disposable. Her willingness to speak her mind, whether about photographers, agencies, or the industry's dark side, earned her a reputation as both difficult and revolutionary. Throughout her career, Dickinson maintained friendships and rivalries with many of fashion's biggest names. She walked for Gianni Versace, posed for Aveden, and became a favorite of Calvin Klein and Chanel. Her face was instantly recognizable, defined by her chiseled cheekbones, sharp jawline, and intense gaze, a look that inspired countless editorials and ad campaigns. Yet, despite her professional success, Janice's personal life was turbulent. She has been open about her struggles with addiction, detailing in her memoirs her use of drugs and alcohol during the height of her modeling fame. These experiences, though painful, later became part of her advocacy. She spoke candidly about the pressures placed on young models and the toxic environments behind the scenes of high fashion. Her romantic life has also drawn considerable media attention. Dickinson has been married multiple times and has 2 children, Nathan Fields and Savannah Dickinson, whose father is British television producer Nigel B. Dickinson. Her relationships, often with well-known men in entertainment, were marked by intensity and chaos, which she never shied away from discussing publicly. She famously dated Sylvester Stallone in the early 1980s, believing him to be the father of her daughter until a paternity test proved otherwise, a revelation that made tabloid headlines worldwide. In the 2000s, Dickinson reinvented herself once again through television. Her role as a judge on America's Next Top Model, 2003 to 2005, reintroduced her to a new generation. On the show, she was a sharp contrast to the more nurturing Tyra Banks, often blunt, dramatic, and brutally honest. Viewers either loved or loathed her, but no one ignored her. Her catchphrases and fierce critiques helped shape the show's early identity, establishing the template for reality TV's tough love archetype. When she left America's Next Top Model, Dickinson launched the Janice Dickinson Modeling Agency, a reality show that aired on Oxygen from 2006 to 2008. The series followed her attempts to run a modeling agency while clashing with clients, models, and staff. It was chaotic, unfiltered, and perfectly in line with her reputation, showcasing both her business savvy and her volatility. Despite frequent on-screen conflicts, the show became a cult favorite, especially among fans of early 2000s reality television. In later years, Janice continued to be a visible presence in media. She appeared on reality programs such as I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, UK, Celebrity Big Brother, and Couples Therapy, often providing candid and unpredictable entertainment. Beyond television, Dickinson has also spoken publicly about important personal battles. In 2016, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, which she faced with characteristic candor and courage. She shared her journey openly, discussing her fear, treatment, and recovery in interviews, inspiring many with her resilience. In 2014, Janice came forward as one of the first public figures to accuse Bill Cosby of sexual assault, alleging that he drugged and raped her in 1982. Her testimony became a pivotal moment in the broader conversation around sexual violence in Hollywood, preceding the #MeToo movement. Despite skepticism and backlash at the time, Dickinson stood firm in her account, later testifying at Cosby's trial in 2018, a moment that she described as both painful and empowering. Today, Janice Dickinson continues to embrace her legacy with pride. She remains active on social media, sharing memories of her modeling days and advocating for self-acceptance, sobriety, and authenticity. Her sharp humor and no-nonsense attitude have not faded with time. She is still as bold, outspoken, and unapologetically herself as ever. Janice Dickinson's legacy is not just about beauty, it's about breaking barriers. She challenged the notion of what a model could be, not a passive image but a full, complicated human being with a voice. Through her triumphs and tribulations, she helped pave the way for future generations of women to be strong, vocal, and unafraid to own their stories. Janice Dickinson's story is one of constant evolution, a woman who refused to fade into the background, even when the spotlight grew harsh. Her journey from a working-class upbringing to international superstardom is as much a story of survival as it is of fame. Over the decades, she has proven that resilience, audacity, and reinvention can sustain a career long after the camera stops flashing. By the late 1980s, the modeling industry had begun to change, favoring younger faces and new styles. But Dickinson refused to disappear quietly. She moved to Los Angeles and explored other creative outlets, including photography, acting, and later, writing. Her transition from model to public personality was natural. She had always been more than just an image. Her quick wit, humor, and brutally honest storytelling made her a captivating talk show guest. Landing her appearances on The Tonight Show, The Howard Stern Show, and The Oprah Winfrey Show, where her frank discussions about the modeling industry, fame, and addiction resonated with audiences. In the early 2000s, Dickinson published a series of autobiographical books that cemented her reputation as one of Hollywood's most unfiltered voices. No Lifeguard on Duty. The Accidental Life of the World's First Supermodel, 2002, offered a raw, candid account of her rise to fame, her battles with drugs, and her turbulent relationships. It shocked many with its honesty but also earned praise for its vulnerability and humor. Everything About Me Is Fake, and I'm Perfect, 2004, continued in the same irreverent tone. Addressing her experiences with plastic surgery, aging, and the pressures of maintaining beauty in Hollywood. Check Please, Dating, Mating, and Extricating, 2006, explored her often chaotic romantic life, filled with heartbreaks, self-discovery, and lessons in resilience. These books, part confessional and part satire, positioned Dickinson as an early voice of transparency in an industry built on illusion. At a time when most models and celebrities carefully guarded their image, she spoke openly about her insecurities, cosmetic procedures, and the darker realities of fame. Her trademark self-awareness, mocking her own flaws while embracing them, foreshadowed the kind of honesty that would later dominate celebrity culture and social media. Even as she aged out of the traditional modeling world, Dickinson became an advocate for self-acceptance and authenticity. She often challenged the industry's obsession with youth and perfection, calling out the unrealistic standards imposed on women. Her candor about cosmetic surgery, she once joked that she was a work in progress, helped demystify beauty culture for audiences who saw her as refreshingly real. Janice's influence on the concept of the supermodel is undeniable. Long before the likes of Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, and Linda Evangelista, she was one of the first to treat modeling as a career with agency and personality. She demanded recognition and compensation on par with male athletes and entertainers, arguing that models were not just faces but global influencers. This bold attitude helped establish the model as a celebrity, a concept that later defined the 1990s supermodel era. Her unapologetic nature also made her a trailblazer for diversity in fashion. In the early 1970s, she was often told she looked too ethnic, or too dark, for the European beauty ideal. Yet, it was precisely this difference, her olive skin, dark hair, and intense eyes, that made her stand out. Her success helped broaden the industry's definition of beauty and paved the way for models of more varied backgrounds. In her later years, Dickinson's public image softened somewhat. After her breast cancer diagnosis in 2016, she became an advocate for health awareness and self-care. She shared her journey with courage, encouraging others to prioritize early detection and mental strength. Her openness about her fears and vulnerabilities humanized her in a new way, revealing a woman who, despite her fiery persona, had endured profound pain and transformation. Today, Janice Dickinson continues to live in Los Angeles with her husband, Dr. Robert "Rocky" Gerner, whom she married in 2016 after several years of partnership. Their relationship, marked by stability and affection, represents a calmer chapter in her life. She has said in interviews that she's finally found peace, sobriety, and gratitude after decades of chaos. Still, Janice remains outspoken, active, and relevant. She appears at events celebrating the golden age of fashion, mentors younger models, and participates in interviews and podcasts where she reflects on her legacy with a mix of pride and self-deprecating humor. She acknowledges her mistakes but embraces them as part of her evolution. "I've lived 10 lives," she once said, "and I'm still not done yet." Ultimately, Janice Dickinson's legacy lies in her fearless honesty. She shattered the illusion of perfection long before it was fashionable to do so. Her story is one of defiance, against narrow beauty standards, against the silence imposed on women, and against the idea that one's worth fades with age. She showed the world that beauty, true beauty, lies not in flawlessness but in authenticity. Janice Dickinson's cultural impact extends far beyond her modeling career. She helped shape modern celebrity culture itself. Her mix of glamour, raw honesty, and outrageous confidence created a public persona that bridged the gap between the high fashion world of the 1970s and the unapologetically self-aware media landscape of today. In many ways, she was a prototype for the kind of celebrity we now take for granted, one who is both admired and controversial, idolized and self-parodic, beautiful yet brutally candid. When Janice burst into prominence in the 1970s, the modeling world was still dominated by quiet grace and restraint. Models were expected to be elegant but silent, photographed but rarely heard. Dickinson turned that notion upside down. She brought personality, attitude, and wit into every room she entered. She didn't just pose, she performed. She spoke her mind in interviews, defied agency rules, and challenged industry hierarchies. This self-possession inspired a generation of models who would later command their own image and narrative. By the 1990s and 2000s, her legacy was visible in the rise of supermodels who acted, spoke out, and cultivated media personas. Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, and Kate Moss among them. Janice's belief that models were stars in their own right paved the way for the kind of global fame that defined that era. She was, in essence, one of the first to market the model as a brand, a concept that now dominates social media culture. Her influence also carried into the world of reality television. On America's Next Top Model, Janice embodied a kind of fierce, unscripted authenticity that predated the reality TV archetype of the truth teller.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.